I'd like to share with you a prayer by my Presbyterian colleague, Reverend Dr. Mark Sandlin. Good and queering God, we were taught to pray for peace, for calm, for things to settle down. And honestly, sometimes that's what we want, too. But love keeps showing up right where things are messy, right where nothing is settled, right where silence would be easier. Love keeps reminding us that peace isn't the same thing as quiet, and harmony isn't faithful if it only works for the people already comfortable. So today, we pray a little differently. Where there's hatred, don't let us rush past it with nice words or nervous smiles. Help us stay. Help us to say the truth. Help us to refuse to look away. Let love disturb us. Where there is injury, teach us how to tend wounds gently and how to ask why those wounds keep happening over and over again. Let love disturb us. Where there is despair, give us hope that doesn't flinch, hope that doesn't disappear when things get awkward or costly, hope that stays. And where there is darkness, give us light, not the kind that makes everything feel better, but the kind that shows us what we'd rather not see. Let love disturb us. Where we've grown numb, shake us awake. Where we've gone along to get along, interrupt us. Where tradition matters more to us than actual human lives, and we benefit from that even quietly, don't let us pretend we don't notice. Love keeps whispering and sometimes shouting that gentleness isn't weakness, and kindness isn't passivity, and silence is not peace. Because peace without justice isn't peace, it's just harm with better manners. Let love disturb us, disturb our comfort, disturb the excuses we make so we can sleep at night, disturb the ways we call convenience faith, mess with our calendars, mess with our money, mess with the tables where we decide who gets a seat and who doesn't. Let love disturb us. Help us want more than being understood. Help us want understanding. Help us want more than being liked. Help us to want to love in ways that actually cost us something. Not just talking about justice, but practicing it with our bodies, with our choices, with our lives. Move us closer to those pushed to the edges. Teach us how to love without fixing, without saving, without standing at a safe distance. Make us channels not just of peace, but of disruption. Let love disturb us until love refuses to settle for the world as it is. Amen. Good morning. I am the Reverend Edith A. Love. It is my great joy, honor, and privilege to be with you today. I'm really grateful for the invitation to speak because the state of affairs in our country and in our world is alarming, to say the least. And it is okay to feel whatever you feel about what is going on. Feelings can't be wrong. So it's okay, let yourself feel it. Our topic today is the holiday honoring Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The conventional mainstream understanding in this country is that King was killed as a noble martyr who willingly sacrificed his life for a dream of racial reconciliation, that he was powered by love and not hate, and he only wanted people to have more advantages in a society which disadvantages them. That is the sanitized, saintly version, and that's not what I'm going to talk to you about today. I want to talk about the king who indeed spoke of love, but love as a sword called nonviolent civil disobedience, wielded judiciously to fight for everyone in this country to have justice, equality, and equal opportunity, to have a chance, to have a decent income, to have a dignified existence in a world that sees some people as lesser and some people as greater. White people will one day be a minority in this country, according to demographic studies, and some people are not okay with that. And we're seeing that in the blatant rise of white supremacist rhetoric and actions in our country. Racism and xenophobia are the heart of the issues ailing our nation. And as my beloved colleague, Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto says, I can understand that folks are worried they won't be in the front row anymore, but some people aren't even in the building yet. So whiteness and white people are clinging hard to power, and that idea that other groups might have any kind of access or influence appears to be terrifying to them. It is now, as it was in April of 1968, when a man shot and killed Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. And when he existed, very few people of my color, in or out of Memphis, supported King. They said that he was a rabble-rouser, a troublemaker, and I heard it said, we have no race problem here. So today, in our present era, my colleague in ministry, Reverend Dr. Earl Fisher, says the day of service in honor of King is a sham. He says that those evoking King's name do not share King's ideology. People who work against the initiatives that King fought for chastise citizens and subversively blame the victims for their own social conditions and challenge them to engage in charitable acts rather than justice work. King's birthday was established as a national holiday in 1983. And across the nation, I see all kinds of advertisements for a day of service, donating blood, picking up garbage, doing things that are, I would say, rather superficial. And although they are nice, that is not what he advocated. He spoke for radical justice. And his words about love with regards to justice are these: power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. King used nonviolence as the way to expose the violence of the white supremacist power structure because love demands justice. In the story you just heard about the children's crusades, it took white men in power abusing children on a screen in real time in front of everyone in the world for things to finally change. In 1963, Dr. King said, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And in 1967, 11 months before he was murdered, he said, I must confess that the dream I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. And he went on to say, I'm not one to lose hope. I keep on hoping. But I've gone through a lot of soul searching, and I've come to see that we have many more difficult days ahead. He said, some of the old optimism must be tempered with a solid realism. And he said, the realistic fact is we still have a long, long way to go. He said, it didn't cost the nation anything to integrate lunch counters or give African American people the right to vote. He said, you can, through violence, burn down a building, but you can't establish justice. You can murder a hater, but you can't murder hate. What we are trying to get rid of is hate, injustice, and all the other things that continue the long night of human beings' inhumanity to other human beings. King could have easily been speaking of current events here in 2026. What we have today in our nation is a rare opportunity to do things to change the course of history, my friends. You have likely heard of Renee Nicole Good, who was killed while filming immigration and customs enforcement officers in Minneapolis. But have you also heard of the 10 other people that ICE has shot since September of last year? For example, Miramar Martinez. Thankfully, she survived, but many others are not so fortunate. What happened to Renee was horrific, totally unjustified, absolutely not okay. And it's happened to other people too, and their deaths don't make headlines. So what I find myself wondering is, why don't we hear about the others? Could it be because of the colors of their skins? Perhaps sometimes we unconsciously think it happens to other people but not to us. And that is the heart of what I'm trying to say today, is othering is the hate that underlies all the other hate. That's hatred of immigrants is xenophobia. Hatred of transgender people is transphobia. Hatred of black or brown people is racism, right? Hatred of queer people, homophobia. Hatred of Muslim people, Islamophobia. I could go on and on. The root of all of these things is othering. And we have to understand ourselves to be exactly like all the other people. And I'm going to say this gently with love, and it hurts to say this out loud. My friends, I believe we are already in a second civil war. Our government is attacking people in our nation, openly, unashamedly, without any due process, and demonizing and vilifying and othering people who are transgender, and going door to door demanding papers for people who are brown. The Lemkin Institute for Genocide Prevention released a statement on January 5th saying that the United States is already in the early stages of genocide against transgender Americans. We're already there. Experts in genocide are telling us we're in it. I brought a visual aid. The artist's name is Libby Kircher. It says, "Hail Mary, full of grace, kick ice out of this place." And if you don't already have a sign up, I suggest it might be nice to vote or have the board talk about it or whatever you do to put a sign up that says something like this, because ice will come. We're there. That poem that everybody talks about, we're in it. It's happening. We are at a crucial place in time, and that's why I am moved to speak to you today, because love demands justice. I ask you to consider carefully how you might be of service in the fierce urgency of now. There are many ways to play a role. If you are a melanin-impaired person, such as I am, you carry privilege. And as we have seen in recent news events, they can take that privilege back. They can revoke it, but we can use it, we can leverage it for good. It is incumbent upon those of us who have benefited from being seen as white to do what we can to use our privilege, to try to make a change. The system has benefited some of us for hundreds of years, and it's about time we turned the tides the other way. There have been a few so-called white people in history who willingly spoke out and paid an ultimate price. I think of John Brown. I think of Viola Liuzzo. We have our celebrated martyrs, James Reeb, for example, but we can't stay there. I think of all the numerous examples of people in our nation's history who've been bold enough to speak out and work for change, even though they were marginalized. I think of Harriet Tubman. I think of Ida B. Wells. I think of Fannie Lou Hamer, Dolores Huerta, Russell Means and the American Indian Movement, Harvey Milk, Sylvia Rivera, and Marsha P. Johnson. Our current administration has created an army of secret police who are snatching people off the streets, abducting them from their homes, and raiding businesses, and there is a network of hastily built prisons to house them. One of them in the Everglades near where I was living in South Florida. And don't forget, we still lead the world in the numbers of citizens that we imprison, which is a global money-making industry. So this is not justice. This is not equality. This is not what King stood for. So I personally don't celebrate on MLK Day. I roll my sleeves up and get ready to fight. What's going on is not okay. It is wrong, it is a profound evil, and it must be changed. So what is being called for now is nothing less than revolution. The time has come. When I think about how COVID ravaged the world, people came together all across the world to create a vaccine, to create a test, to network together, to give each other essential necessities of life. They cooperated to share resources. And I think that collectively, we were very successful. A lot of people died, but a lot of people didn't die. I've personally had COVID twice. So we now have a vaccine-denying man occupying the highest seat in the Department of Health, and don't get me started on the occupant of the White House. If we all set our sights on stopping the evils of racism and inequality, injustice, immigration raids, extrajudicial killings of African American people, and so much more, think of the difference we could make if we all collectively came together to fight for what was right. What's happening now across our nation is a profound wrong. So I'm urging you, as Unitarian Universalists, whom I love so much, can we help everyone in the whole world understand that we are all interdependent beings, that we all rely on each other, that we are all in this together? I believe we can. In his letter from a Birmingham jail, King said the greatest hindrance was the silence of the white moderate. He could not even get the white clergy group in Selma to endorse the march. They said it was too controversial. So we are metaphorically standing upon a threshold. As John O'Donohue says, a threshold is not a simple boundary. It is a frontier that divides two different territories that cannot be crossed without the heart being passionately engaged and woken up. He goes on to say it is wise to be able to recognize and acknowledge key thresholds, to take your time, to feel all the varieties of presence that accrue there, to listen inward with complete attention until you hear the inner voice calling you forward. The time has come to cross the threshold. The threshold before us now is one of either maintaining the status quo, to have a so-called normal life, or to join the movement to resist fascism, to protect all our neighbors from harm, to protect everyone from the hatred being doled out, which we see in all the news headlines. These are the clear choice before us. Do we as Unitarian Universalists really believe what we say we believe? My argument is, yes, we do. Do we believe in our seventh principle, the interdependent web of all existence? Yes, we do. Do we see the oneness and interrelatedness of our collective humanity? Yes, we do. Theologian Dr. Andrew DeCourt created what he calls the neighbor love covenant. It reads, "Today I covenant to love my neighbor as myself. Every person is my neighbor across every boundary and identity. I choose to see and treat my neighbors with value, respect, and practical compassion. Today, I say yes. I am an ambassador of neighbor love." He goes on to say, neighbor love is far more than momentary pity or random kindness. It's a chosen way of life that intentionally transgresses the boundaries of othering and actively recognizes the divine value of others, including those we have been conditioned to see as strangers or enemies. As Unitarian Universalists, we live according to our values of love at the center and the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And so I would say to you today, if we are dedicated to our faith, we must consider action. We must work to change the systems themselves. What are we doing to ensure that everyone has what they need? How can we help make sure that everyone in this country is safe? The Dalai Lama says, if you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. I have such faith in you, my loves. Every one of you, I know that you can find your place in this movement for positive change. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Faith is taking the first step even when you can't see the whole staircase." You are taking the next right step and the next one and the next one. And I know that your ministers are so incredibly proud of you. I have a few ideas, but bear in mind, Reverend Charlotte has a whole service later this month planned around what actions you can take, assessing your risk, all of that. She's going to handle it. She's got you. So my suggestions, even though I'm a Memphian rather than from Nashville, would be to network and really get to know your neighbors, all your neighbors. Yes, even the red-hatted ones, or the ones who don't speak English, especially those. There's a push right now this week to get clergy up to Minneapolis for a mass demonstration at the end of the week. UUSC has pledged to help cover costs. UUSC is Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. And so donating directly to UUSC is a way you can help get more ministers on the ground in Minneapolis this week. I urge you to consider joining the effort to observe, document, and report ICE activity in your community. Once again, assess your risk, talk to Reverend Charlotte. It's something that you could consider doing. Another thing that you could do, you could help shelter or fund a transgender person who's trying to get to safety. Look at Pink Haven, which is a UU initiative. You could bake for your neighbor. You could deliver meals to someone who's afraid to leave home. You could send money to fund the resistance. You could protest, mindful of your own risk profile. It's up to you. You could let revolutionary groups meet in your home or your church. You could speak out when someone says something or does something hateful. You could ask them, "Did you really just say that? Could you repeat that? I'm not sure I understood you." Make them say it again. If they're going to say it, make them own it. The only way out of this mess is together, my loves, and I know we can do it. It is vitally important because we need each other to survive. Love demands justice, beloveds. And as we launch into this upcoming week, may everyone find their place, wherever it is, in this movement towards justice, in the name of our faith and in memory of a radical man named King. Amen, ashe, and blessed be.